Hello, welcome to my channel. This video has been a long time coming. I did say a few months ago that I was going to do a video of making this medieval wheel lock almost in real time as I went along. I had some drawings that I downloaded from the internet, but I couldn't understand them. I couldn't make the dimensions fit. That's not to say they were wrong, just I couldn't follow the dimensions. So I had to abandon it and start working on one myself, doing it myself, doing modifications as I went along. I used some of the ideas of the instructions, but I couldn't make them work. It just didn't work for me. Like I said, that's not to say that they were wrong, just as I couldn't make it work. So I did say that I was going to do it as I went along and kind of make a video of all the problems associated with trying to make something like this, because it is very, very complicated, and beyond the no illusion, it is very, very difficult. It is for me anyway. I don't know if it's somebody else, but it is for me. So I'm going to try and, first of all, I'm going to try to assemble it and then talk about it as I go along. I was going to do it the other way around. I was going to assemble it and then take it to bits and talk about it. But I'm going to try it this way. If I'm not happy with it, then I'll try it the other way as well. I'll try assembling it and then take it to bits. So let's make a start. First of all, you've got the lock plate itself. This is just a piece of flat steel. It's 75 millimeters deep and it is 5 millimeters thick. This is just an ordinary plane of flat steel I bought from the local steel stockists. So this is the thing that carries all this is screwed to this plate, right? So first of all, you've got to put in what they call it a crankshaft. I don't like calling it a crankshaft. I think it's a misleading term, but basically that's what it is. And this part here, it carries the chain that when you wind the mechanism up, this chain has to wrap around the crankshaft like that. It has to be in a very tight arc, because if it's not in a tight arc, there's too much travel on the chain. And when this chain is unwound, it's got to be like that. Now, on the instructions I downloaded from the internet, it showed you how to make the chain, but it's so difficult to make a chain, so I didn't see any point, because this is off a primary chain off a motorcycle, off a small bike, and it works perfectly. So basically this crankshaft is made out of a piece of square bar. Just a piece of stock square bar, which is basically that, just cut down. So you've got to turn down a piece at that end, then this part here fits into this part. So this is the crankshaft, that's the chain. All this might become clearer later on. This has got to fit inside of there like that. This here is a cam, and the cam will become what it does, but that'll become clearer later on. Now, this crankshaft has to be perfectly straight. You can't waddle around. It's got to be a nice fit in there, but not tight. You can't have anything tight on this mechanism. If there's any binding at all, when this is assembled, it won't work. It's got to be free. In fact, it's better a little bit free than tight. If it's tight, it'll just jam up, it won't work. So that's got to be in there, and it's got to be nice and free to rotate. Just drop the screw on the floor. To pick that up so I don't lose it. Where's that? It comes from there. So I've got to keep the screws with each component part, because every screw matches the part. You can't mix, you can't put another screw in, else it won't work. Everything's got to be, if you alter anything on this, if you change anything, it will change something else. The whole thing is almost in synergy with everything else. If you change one component, that changes the dimension of something else, and you have to start again. That's why I couldn't make the original instructions work. So this is the crankshaft, as I said before. So the crankshaft, you have to put a hole in there, and that is like a bearing surface, and that rotates on that surface. So that's got to go in like that. Okay. So that again, it's got to be better a little bit free, a bit loose than tight. If it's tight or binding, it won't work. So the crankshaft goes in like that, and then the support at the back I must have done this 100 times, and I'm still all fingers and thumbs doing it. It's so and you've got to do it in the right order. If you try and go out of order, you get in trouble. It just won't work. So this is the support for the crankshaft. Now this is held on. This is just a piece of stock steel. And I've welded this little bracket on there. Now at this side there's a little screw goes in. This is to support the whole thing. Now this has to be all the time, got to keep moving it to make sure there's nothing jamming. All these screws are metric, but I tried to get slot-headed screws just to a bit of authenticity. That one's a posi, and at some time I will change it for a slot head, just a bit of authenticity. It doesn't really matter. This bracket's welded on. Now you have to realise that this bracket has to be quite strong, because the whole spring tension is on this bracket. When this chain, when you wind it up, this chain rotates and pulls the spring up, which will be here, and this will be under tremendous tension, so it has to be quite strong, but it can't be tight. This is the carrier that carries, this is the main spring, and I've designed this. This is not like the instructions were. I've designed this. This is the carrier plate for the spring. Okay. So spring wraps around there, it's held on by 2 screws, and this pushes up against another stop plate. Now this has to be a good fit, because there's this spring, when it's fully in the up position, there's a lot of tension on it, a lot of pressure on this spring. Now this is a posi screw, and at some point I will get a flathead to go in there, and I'll take this posi out. Okay, so what we have now is the spring secured to the lock plate, and the chain and the crankshaft in position. Now that chain fits on the end of that little tang there, but I don't want to put it on yet because there's other things that go on before I place that on. You have to do things in sequence. If you try and do it out of sequence, it doesn't work. Okay, so where am I up to now? Okay, we'll turn it over. And put this on next. This is the rotor. This is the wheel. It should have serrations on there. I've not done the serrations yet. I should have put the serrations on, and I haven't done. Should have little serrations on here. Now when this wheel spins, this spins against a piece of iron pyrite and creates the spark. Now this is timed. It's actually got to be on the right position, because this hole, that hole there, has got to be in the right position at the right time. So what I've done is, it has to fit on that way, and there's 3 little dots. You might not be able to see them on the camera, you can see them there. There's 3 little dots. Now those 3 little dots go between those 3 dots and those 3 dots, so that fits in that position. Right? Yep, like that. So that's got to go on in that. You can't put it on, 90 degrees out. It's got to go on like that. Now this crankshaft has got to be held in that position. You can't have it slopping about like this, because there's a lot of tension on this wheel. When it's all wound up, there's a lot of force trying to force this rotor, this wheel, out this way. So it's got to have some way of fastening this to the crankshaft. Now this is something that I've kind of designed, which is this little fork. This little fork that goes in there, and then it's held on by a small screw. Now what that's doing is, this little fork is stopping the crankshaft from going back. So there's a little tiny bit of play like that. And you need a little bit, let's say, it's a little bit better having a bit of play in. Not too much, actually not too much, then another component that goes in the back here will not work. So you need a little bit of play, because if it's tight, it'll act like a brake. If there's any resistance in that, this will act like a brake on this back plate, and the thing won't work, it'll just stop. So again, it's important that there's no play in it, but it's not tight. You're better off loose like that than it being tight. This is just another kind of keeper plate to keep the rotor in place. So there we are, we've got the crankshaft in, the wheels in, the keeper plates in, and this is another little support just to stop the wheel coming. If it tries to come out, that'll push it back. The springs in, the main springs in, and the chains on, and the support brackets on. Okay, if I keep stopping, I have to think what I'm doing, because I've got to do it in sequence. Right, this part. This is the pan. Now this is the pan that holds the priming charge. When you're ready to go, you put powder in there. Now there's a slot cut in the bottom, as you can see there. You can see the slot in the bottom. Now that slot's got to fit over this wheel, but it's not got to be tight again, but also it has to be quite a good fit, or your priming powder will just fall straight through. So that's got to go. It's so cold in here, I'm all fingers and thumbs today. So that's got to go in there. There's a little cutout there. You see, there's like a little chamfered cutout. Well, that chamfered cutout, that little tooth, if you like, sticking out there, fits under there, and that locates the pan in the correct position. And then it's held on by a screw at the back. So that fits in with that tooth like that, and then this screw in theory I should be able to completely assemble this with one screwdriver. I have made one before we could do that, but this one I need a slightly smaller screwdriver sometimes because the screws are quite small. But I have made one where you just used one screwdriver. So again, make sure that this wheel is not fouling anywhere there, and everything still rotates, and that's in position. Okay, so now this is the sear. This is what the trigger mechanism operates on. It's called a sear. This is a really difficult part to make and get right. At the end there you can see the pin sticking out. It has a little chamfer on. That chamfer is very important to get the right handle and the right depth of it, because what has to happen is when you pull the trigger, this sear fits in to the back of this wheel. You remember that there was a hole in the back of that wheel? Well, that pin fits into that hole in there. Like that. See that? The wheel would be in that position when it's in the unsprung position. This sear goes in there, and when you wind the spring up, when the spring is fully in the full tension position, this sear snaps into the hole like that. Now that's got to happen at exactly the right time, when the spring is in the full tension position. If the spring is too strong, that hole, the angle of that hole corresponds with the angle on this end of this sear. It's trying to force this thing backwards, and if the spring is too strong it'll force it out. So it's got to be, the spring's got to be strong but not too strong. It's really difficult to explain. So before I put that in, I've got to put the sear spring in. Before I put that in, I've got to put this in. This is another part of the sear. This is part of the trigger mechanism. So the trigger mechanism goes in like that. Oh, pardon me, sir. I see somewhere. Appears to be something missing. See, I've left it on the bench.